Hello everyone, and welcome back to Train Simulator. As you can see, today we're having a look at Dovetail Games' brand new Class 700 model. Or rather, Class 700 add-on. This was only, this was only released this morning, from memory. And, whilst I think the scenarios that come with it are for the, that extended version of the Chatham mainline that did fairly recently. Obviously with the 700 you can use it on quite a few different routes, and that's what I've done here because today we're taking her for a short, well in this video specifically, we're taking her for a run along a short part of the South London network. And currently we're at Streatham on a service that's come up from Sutton, and we are going to go for a short run to Loughborough Junction, stopping at Tulse Hill and Herne Hill on the way. Now, I have... Oh yes, the bloody door closing. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, master key. There we go. Considering how much Dovetail have screwed up with a lot of aspects of this DLC, I'm surprised that they've actually put in the working, like a working master key. They seem to be... don't seem to care about trying to fix any issues with lag, of course, as is always the case when I do one of these sorts of videos, but yeah, reuse motor sounds. Hardly surprising, considering that that's kind of Dovetail's, I guess you could say, shtick. Obviously we're currently in third rail DC mode, and just like in real life, the 700s here can run on overhead wires as well, and from what I've seen in like other videos on YouTube, the 700s in the game actually sound like 395s when they're on AC mode, and I'm not really sure why or how Dovetail could have possibly thought that it was a good idea to use sounds from a Hitachi train on one that was built by Siemens. And I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure the 700 doesn't sound anything like a 395 in real life. Obviously I don't know for certain because I haven't really watched that many videos of the real 700s. It's like the classic story, it's like the classic case of a train with a pretty good, or a reasonably good model for the most part, just ruined by awful sounds. And these almost UFO sounds that you're hearing that the Desiros are primarily associated with is that I think they're reused from the Class 450 that came with the Portsmouth Direct line several years ago. Not actually, surprisingly, I'm not referring to the original Portsmouth Direct route, which was just Woking to Portsmouth via Guildford, and not the more recent version, which goes all the way to London Waterloo. So anyway, yeah, I don't get it. Like, I really can't understand why Dovetail couldn't be bothered going out and actually recording a real 700, especially since they run through Chatham, which is, in case you don't know, that's where Dovetail has one of their main office. And the 700's down that way. I think they're on the like Luton to Rainham service. Anyway, as we pull into Tulse Hill here, you can see that on platform 4 there's a southern service heading to Bedford Junction, run by a pair of Class 455s. Speaking of 455s, if any of you have got the London commuter route in Train Sim World, you'll know that the only trains that Dovetail have put on to act as like the locals for South London, like the services to Sutton and West Croydon and what have you, they're all 377s in the game, and in real life they also use, or Southern also use 455s. And I can't help thinking I'm not the only one who wouldn't mind seeing a 455 in TSW, and a 700 for that matter. Because I remember that when the London commuter route was announced, I know that, well, I think initially when London Commuter was released, people, and I guess even now, for all I know, people are wanting a 700 to go with the route alongside the Southern 377 and Gatwick 387. But personally, I think that since Dovetail have almost surprised us with making a 700 for Train Simulator, I don't understand why they don't seem to be showing any signs of doing the same for TSW. If anything, this model almost looks like it could work in TSW, although I think they'd probably have to alter it so that you could actually open the cab doors, because on this TS model you can't. Also, that clicking that you keep hearing is when I set up the Bandicam software before I did this recording, I thought it was a good idea to add like a mouse click sound effect, and I don't think I'll be doing that again because even I'm finding it a bit annoying. Anyway, as we depart Tulse Hill here, you can see there's this tunnel that's going straight ahead while we curve round to the left, and there's another 700. That tunnel is the one that those 455s we would have used, the ones that we saw earlier. Because I think from Tulse Hill it's then like east, or is it like west? No, West Dulwich is southeastern. No, it's like north. It's like east Dulwich and like north Dulwich, and then Peckham Rye, Queens Road Peckham, South Bermondsey and London Bridge. Speaking of London Bridge in relation to the South London Network routes, I remember that this SLN route that we're on today is set in 2012, long before the major track works at London Bridge. So the way it's depicted on this route is actually now quite almost severely outdated. So I think there's a whole new like flyover or dive under that was built around that way to, I would assume, to help ease congestion in the big station itself. Because obviously it's not just southern trains that serve London Bridge, but you also get Thameslink and Southeastern. Actually, speaking of Thameslink, I remember that I think I read somewhere that the reason why Dovetail weren't bringing the 700 TSW is something to do with licensing, and like not being able to do the 700 properly. Although, well, what I mean is something about it was licensing relating to either the Thameslink logo or the Class 700 itself. Although I wouldn't have thought a train would be copyrighted, just the branding. And so I'm thinking like, since they've got the 700 in Train Simulator, why don't they put it into TSW as well? Because I remember that when Dovetail did the Class 465/9 for TSW, they later included an updated 465 with the extended Chatham Mainline route, which to me just looked like they took the TSW model and then imported it into Train Simulator. And that's what I think Dovetail should do with the 700, but in reverse, where they take the Train Simulator model and import it into TSW. I reckon that would work quite well on London Commuter, and you could also use it on Southeastern High Speed to represent the newer services that Thameslink run between Luton and Rainham, which I think they've taken over the Southeastern. Well, they now run in place of Southeastern locals that came down from Charing Cross and terminated at Rainham. Because I think these days Southeastern still run services on the North Kent line, but they only go as far as Gravesend. Anyway, this is Herne Hill, a station I know almost nothing about. Come to think of it, I hardly know anything about the railways of South London and their history. Wow, this thing's quiet. So, yes, I guess might as well give my initial thoughts on Dovetail's rendition of the Class 700. sounds are awful, if I'm honest. Like, again, I don't know how they thought they could get away with using, or like reusing the Class 450 sounds. And I saw someone else point out in one of their own videos that the textures for the headlights are pretty horrible. And yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Because I'm pretty sure these are meant to be LED lights. But I can't quite tell if that, like, what it's meant to depict. In this, it's like the text, that low of a resolution. And that's something else to mention, is that for some reason they used the door opening chime, or that beeping, for when it's closing. And I'm pretty sure that's in real life trains actually have slightly different sounds that they play for when the doors are opening, and then another one, a different one when they're closing. So I'm not sure what's going on there. As always, although credit where it's due, I think the modelling is not too bad. I mean, the proportions around the front, to me, they just look quite a little off. But regardless, it does still, at the very least, look like a pretty decent recreation of the Class 700. In real life, they've actually got there's actually a lot of different messages on these information screens. Like, I think they tell you what the next station is, and like whether or not the lines on the London Underground are running well. Of course, in real life, they've got one of Jeff Marshall's mates to voice a lot of the announcements. And actually, I've just thought, considering how bad the sounds are on the 700 from the outset, I wouldn't mind seeing Armstrong Powerhouse doing an enhancement pack for this train. Because if anything, it'd probably be quite popular, considering how useful the 700 now is with making scenarios. And I think if Armstrong Powerhouse were to do a 700 enhancement pack, they could also add the 707 and like the Southwest Trains and Southeastern liveries. 707s, of course, being very similar to the 700s, except they were 5-car units instead of either 8 or 12, and they were built for Southwest Trains. And they're still, I think some of them are still running with Southwestern Railway, even though, and this is a stupid part, despite the fact that the 707s aren't even 5 years old. Well, I suppose they are 5 years old now, but even though the 707s are very young trains, SWR has already decided to get rid of them and replace them with the Class 701s. And the 701s are Aventry units, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember when I first heard about that, I initially thought that the 707s would be scrapped, which, now that I think about it, that would be stupid, considering that they're still very modern trains. It'd be like if Amtrak decided to have any of their Acela units scrapped. Because I think the Acelas are far too young to be retired, let alone scrapped. And yeah, the 707s are slowly being transferred to Southeastern. So theoretically, you could also use you could use the 707 as like AI at Clapham Junction, or just making scenarios on the extended Portsmouth Direct line. Or I don't know what. I'm pretty sure that AI train's accelerating pretty quickly. God, look at that thing! It's almost like an absolute speed demon. And for some reason the headlights aren't on. That's presumably a bug. And yeah, now that I think about it, like Dovetail Games, if any of you are watching this, why did you release the 700 in such a poor state? Or were you under the mindset of, it doesn't matter how bad we make this thing, people will still buy it? In which case I am sort of obviously guilty of it. But as I said earlier, credit where it's due. I do like the way this thing looks, and I do like that we actually have a proper drivable 700 in the game now, because for the longest time we've just had an AI only version that was up on Alan Thompson's simulation. Yeah, you can really see just how outdated the South London network is when it's got the old First Capital Connect logo on the station sign. But anyway, yeah, Dovetail or any other third-party people, I really do hope that you improve the 700 in the future, because whilst it is okay and I can tolerate driving this thing, the sounds are a right piece of work, and they certainly need to be worked on. And as for physics, I can't really comment on that, but yeah, I can understand why people don't like this thing, but I'm kind of judging it mainly as a combination of how it looks with the sounds. Well, we're sort of ruined by the poor sounds, but regardless, I do hope that you've enjoyed this short run from Streatham to Loughborough Junction, and my first look at the Class 700. And yes, on that note, I think I'll end the video here. So until next time, thank you very much for watching.